Key One Not Stoic, let me invite you into a familiar yet pivotal moment. Picture this. It's 4 a.m. and darkness fills the room. Your alarm is set to pierce through the quiet at any second now. A sound you've prepared for, a promise made last night. Today is the day everything changes. Today is the day you'll embrace a new routine, a fresh start. But as the alarm disrupts the silence, a voice, soft and persuasive, begins to whisper, 5 more minutes. You've worked so hard. You deserve a bit more rest. Tomorrow is soon enough. Just a little longer. Sound familiar? That moment, though seemingly insignificant, holds far more weight than we realize. It's not just about pressing snooze or skipping a morning workout. It's about the essence of who we are and what we aspire to be. In this tiny decision, you're choosing not just to rise from bed, but to honor a promise to yourself, to uphold your commitment to consistency, discipline, and growth. The Stoics taught us a profound lesson. Nature is unwavering. The sun rises, the seasons shift, and the rhythm of life continues without fail. So why is it that we, beings made to reflect this order, struggle so deeply with consistency? The answer lies in the inner battle we all face between comfort and progress. Every choice you make, every moment of resistance, is a test of your character. By choosing to rise, you're reinforcing your commitment to your future self. You're building your foundation brick by brick with every deliberate act of discipline. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic, once wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for?" This moment is more than just getting out of bed. It's a reflection of your values and a declaration of your commitment to them, regardless of your mood. Consistency, according to Stoic thought, is a virtue forged through small, deliberate actions taken day after day. Imagine it like making deposits into the account of who you are becoming. Every time you choose effort over ease, you're building resilience, integrity, and strength. But when you opt for comfort, you make a withdrawal, a step back from the person you want to become. The Stoics observed nature's rhythms, how the universe adheres to a divine order, and they believed we too could mirror this consistency in our lives. By making small, disciplined choices, we too can become steadfast, unwavering, and aligned with our highest ideals. Now, let's talk about the reality we all face, the inevitable dip in motivation. At the start of any new journey, whether a New Year's resolution or a simple shift in habits, there's excitement, energy, and resolve. Yet, it doesn't take long before that spark fades. Research even shows that 92% of people abandon their resolutions within weeks of setting them. It's as though an invisible force draws us back to old habits, and we find ourselves giving in to comfort. But the Stoics understood this struggle. It wasn't seen as a failure. It was simply part of the process. Marcus Aurelius famously wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This resistance we feel, whether it's the allure of an extra hour of sleep or the temptation to fall back into old routines, presents us with an opportunity to transcend it, to turn obstacles into stepping stones. In Stoic philosophy, this battle isn't about fleeting motivation. It's about developing a deep relationship with discipline. It's about training our minds to rise above momentary desires for the sake of long-term growth. Carl Jung put it this way, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." Our intentions and plans mean nothing if they're not backed by action. The real challenge lies not in setting a goal, but in showing up day after day, even when motivation wanes. This struggle, as the Stoics saw it, is a fight for freedom. The freedom for being ruled by our moods and impulses, and the liberation of aligning our actions with our deepest values. When you build consistency, you're not just forming habits. You're creating the freedom to live in accordance with your highest ideals. Every small, disciplined action contributes to your liberation from the whims of circumstance. The Stoics didn't wait for motivation to strike. They created their own through a deliberate and steady commitment to their values. If you've ever found yourself feeling fired up at the start of something new, only to fall back into old patterns soon after, know that this is not failure. It's a shared human experience. The true struggle lies not in wanting to change, but in committing to that change every single day. The Stoic path is not about quick fixes or bursts of inspiration. It's about unwavering commitment to who you want to become. It's about finding the power in the small, consistent decisions you make every day and turning those moments into the foundation of a life well lived. So next time your alarm rings and that familiar voice tempts you to stay comfortable, remember, you're not just deciding whether to wake up. You're deciding who you will become. Key 1. Stoic, have you ever noticed how certain individuals seem to command respect effortlessly, while others constantly struggle, no matter how hard they try? It's an undeniable truth. Respect is not something we can demand. It's something we earn, not just through our actions, but through the very core of our character. True respect is built on a foundation that goes far beyond surface-level gestures. It's nurtured by consistency, discipline, and the integrity of the choices we make every single day. Carl Jung, the renowned psychologist, touched on this idea when he discussed the concept of transformation. He said that real change doesn't come from a single moment of inspiration. It comes from continuous, consistent action. In fact, lasting transformation is like water carving its way through rock. It's the power of repetition, the quiet persistence of daily choices that shapes our true character over time. Jung also described something profound, the shadow within each person. This shadow is a part of us that resists growth, that clings to comfort and familiarity, and craves the easy path. The Stoics recognized this shadow too. Rather than fighting it directly, they embraced a method of transcendence. They chose to act in ways that aligned with their highest values day in and day out. Through this, they quieted the shadow's influence. Instead of feeding it with inconsistency, they fed their soul with purpose and action that reflected their truest self. Think of Epictetus, who was once a slave but became one of the most revered Stoic philosophers. Despite not having control over his circumstances, he realized that he had complete control over his responses, his actions, and his will. His philosophy was built on this foundation of self-discipline and the daily choice to act according to his principles, no matter how hard life was. This unwavering consistency in his actions is what made him free in the deepest sense. His freedom didn't depend on external circumstances, but on his own commitment to acting with integrity, regardless of how the world around him changed. For the Stoics, this consistency was not just a habit, it was a virtue. It was the path to becoming the person they were meant to be. Through consistent action, they cultivated strength, integrity, and inner peace. They didn't let their moods or circumstances sway them. Instead, they grounded themselves in their values and let those values guide every action. It's in this consistency that we also see what Jung would refer to as individuation, the process of becoming whole, fully integrated, and true to oneself. The Stoics understood that this wholeness could only be achieved through consistency. They knew that by aligning their actions with their highest values, they were actively becoming the best versions of themselves, breaking down the internal barriers that held them back. And speaking of barriers, when we talk about obstacles in life, we often think of external challenges, tight deadlines, limited resources, or unexpected setbacks. But the Stoics understood that the greatest barriers often come from within. The internal resistance we feel, the doubts and fears we harbor, are the true obstacles to our growth. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, captured this truth when he said, It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. The walls we encounter in life are often built by our own fears, doubts, and desire for comfort. These internal barriers are subtle. They take the form of excuses like, "I'll start tomorrow," or "I'm just not ready yet." Each time we give in to these excuses, we reinforce the wall, making it taller, thicker, harder to break down. Carl Jung's theory of the shadow explains this perfectly. The shadow represents that part of us that avoids growth and clings to what is familiar. Jung believed that resisting or fighting against this shadow only gives it more power. The Stoics, however, had a different approach. They acknowledged their resistance without allowing it to dictate their actions. They recognized that every challenge, every internal barrier, was an opportunity to grow stronger. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic emperors, confronted his own resistance head-on. He saw every obstacle as a chance to practice virtue, a chance to become better. He famously wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." For the Stoics, obstacles were never reasons to stop. They were reasons to push forward, to lean into the discomfort, and use it as a stepping stone for personal growth. Now, comfort. Comfort is one of the biggest barriers to our growth. It's easy to fall into routines that don't challenge us because they feel safe. Comfort makes us feel good in the short term, but over time, it keeps us small. It convinces us that there's always another day to do the hard work of becoming who we are meant to be. But the Stoics had a powerful understanding of comfort. They saw it as a dangerous sedative, lulling us into complacency. Marcus Aurelius himself warned against the temptation to choose ease over purpose, reminding himself every morning, "I was born to act with purpose, not to indulge in comfort." Choosing comfort, according to the Stoics, is like betraying one's higher purpose. They understood that true freedom doesn't come from avoiding discomfort. It comes from embracing it, from mastering the ability to rise above it. Epictetus, who endured unimaginable hardship as a slave, reminded us that real growth comes from resisting comfort and embracing the necessary discomfort of life's challenges. The paradox is that while comfort feels good in the moment, it leads to stagnation. It's easy to say, "I'll start tomorrow," but each delay weakens our resolve and adds to the growing pile of inaction. Comfort, like a warm cocoon, may protect us for a time, but it also keeps us from expanding into the person we are meant to become. True progress, the Stoics believed, comes from challenging the self, from stepping beyond what feels easy and familiar. It's in the discomfort of life's challenges that we find strength, courage, and resilience. As Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor strengthens the body." For the Stoics, the greatest reward wasn't found in a life of ease, but in a life of purpose, a life of overcoming obstacles, of growing stronger with each challenge. So, if you want to become a person worthy of respect, look no further than the habits you cultivate. The consistency of your actions, your ability to break through the barriers within you, and your refusal to choose comfort over growth are the keys to not just earning respect, but living a life of true freedom and purpose. This is the Stoic way, the way of growth, strength, and unwavering commitment to your values. Key 1 of Stoic, the journey of growth is rarely straightforward. It's not the challenge itself that truly holds us back. It's the voice in our head, whispering that we don't need to try. It's the comfort of ease, promising peace, but instead delivering nothing but regret. The real battle is breaking free from that voice. It's about choosing the discomfort of growth over the fleeting comfort of staying the same. When we choose to step away from the easy path, we reclaim our lives. We reconnect with our values, our purpose, and our inner strength. In doing so, we become closer to the person we aspire to be, a person aligned with nature, resilient and unshaken by the highs and lows of fortune. Choosing to rise above the allure of comfort isn't just an act of discipline, it's an act of freedom. By opting for growth over ease, we unlock our true power. We step onto a path that leads to a life well lived, a life that resonates with meaning, not regret. Now, you may wonder, how can consistency, which seems like the opposite of freedom, actually bring us the very freedom we seek? It's true. Many people associate freedom with the absence of rules. We often think freedom means complete flexibility, the ability to do whatever we want whenever we want. But for the Stoics, true freedom was quite different. They believed that real freedom doesn't come from avoiding responsibility or discipline. It comes from mastering ourselves to the point where we are no longer controlled by external forces. True freedom, according to the Stoics, is the ability to act according to our principles, no matter what happens around us. Consistency, the steady, disciplined practice of acting in alignment with our values, becomes the foundation of this kind of freedom. It's the ability to move through life, not swayed by emotions, desires, or the opinions of others. As Epictetus wisely said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." When we allow ourselves to be governed by fleeting moods, cravings, or societal expectations, we become slaves to forces beyond our control. But every time we act in accordance with our values, whether we feel like it or not, we reinforce our inner freedom. We create a steady rhythm of action that builds resilience. When life storms come, we stand firm, unaffected by the chaos outside, because we've chosen to be grounded in our own principles. Think about it. If we only worked when we felt like it or exercised when it was convenient, our lives would be in constant flux. We'd be pulled in every direction by our changing feelings. Marcus Aurelius understood this well. He reminded himself not to waste time debating what a good man should be. He simply focused on being one. For Marcus, freedom came from the ability to act based on his principles, not his emotions. Carl Jung also echoed this idea of inner freedom. He believed the greatest privilege of life is to become who we truly are, but that requires daily commitment to action. This is where consistency becomes crucial. It's not about mindlessly going through the motions. It's about creating a life structure that nurtures the person we want to become. Each time we honor that structure, we break free from the impulses and fears that hold us back. We become less reactive, more deliberate, and more in control of our destiny. The Stoics saw freedom not as the absence of rules, but as the ability to live by self-imposed boundaries. They knew that if we don't set our own limits, life will set them for us. Consistency is what allows us to live according to our design, not just react to the whims of external circumstances. It's about creating a life that reflects our true priorities, not just responding to distractions. In a world that constantly pulls us in different directions, consistency becomes a form of resistance. It's a declaration: I know who I am, and I know what I stand for. In practical terms, consistency also creates freedom because it removes decision fatigue. When we've built habits aligned with our values, we don't have to keep deciding whether or not to act on them. Just as a skilled musician plays with ease because of years of consistent practice, we too can move through life with greater ease when our actions align with our principles. This is the kind of freedom the Stoics aspired to, a freedom not determined by external forces, but rooted in the steady commitment to live according to one's values. This freedom isn't just about avoiding distractions. It's about being unshaken by them. It's a freedom that comes from knowing, no matter what challenges or changes the day brings, we are prepared to face it with strength and resilience. Freedom born from consistency isn't about perfection. It's about being able to remain calm and focused, no matter what's happening around us. It's the freedom from a need for approval, freedom from the fear of failure, and freedom from the constant pull of immediate gratification. So, while freedom and consistency may seem like opposites at first, they're actually two sides of the same coin. Consistency is the bedrock of purpose-driven freedom. It allows us to build a life that's aligned with our values, that is unshaken by distractions, and that gives us the ability to act with clarity and confidence, regardless of external circumstances. This kind of freedom is something no external force can take away from us. It's a freedom that comes from self-mastery, from making daily choices that reflect who we are and who we want to become. It's the freedom the Stoics lived by, a freedom grounded in discipline and strengthened by the choices we make day after day. This is your call to action, to bring your values to life, to turn your knowledge into action. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Don't wait for the perfect time or conditions. Begin where you are with what you have. Start aligning your actions with your values right now. The Stoics didn't treat philosophy as an abstract study. They saw it as a guide for everyday living. Every day presented new opportunities to practice courage, temperance, and justice. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about being intentional. Seneca put it simply, begin at once to live and count each separate day as a separate life. This is the Stoic challenge. Don't wait for some grand, transformative moment. Treat every single day as a chance to get closer to the person you want to be. Every morning, ask yourself, how will I live today? What actions will align me with my values? Carl Jung believed that you are what you do, not what you say you'll do. Our intentions may be noble, but they remain mere thoughts until we act on them. It's easy to get caught up in planning or envisioning the person we want to be, but the real challenge is showing up, especially when it's difficult or inconvenient. Each small act of discipline, every time we push past the lure of comfort, builds the foundation of our character. The Stoics understood that we aren't born virtuous. We become virtuous through practice. Just as athletes train their bodies, we can train our minds and wills. If we want to become more resilient, we need to act resiliently every day, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. Every time we make a choice that aligns with our values, we strengthen the habits that define us. In moments of doubt, return to your principles. Ask yourself, what do I truly value, and how can I act in alignment with that today? This is the Stoic call to action, to make every decision with intention, to turn mindfulness into action. It doesn't require grand gestures. It requires small, consistent acts done with integrity. Imagine what your life would look like if, each day, you made one small choice that reflected your